Okay, let's get this fuel tank in here. No ways, man. Oh, damn it. It's not gonna work. No ways. Ah, the freaking thing doesn't want to fit. So I was just gonna reuse the old original fuel tank. I kind of forgot about my engine alignment change. And now the freaking prop shaft is fouling the tank position. It's in the way now, so I can't get the original tank back in up there. So I'm just gonna have to build another fuel tank coming up. Hey, how's it, Oaks, and welcome back. If you don't know me yet, my name's Duff. This is Rad Rods for Africa, small one-man shop in the middle of a forest where I realize rusty dreams. So yeah, when it comes to building custom fuel tanks, everybody says use aluminum or stainless steel. Sure, but then you get the perfect world and you get the real world. And I live in the real world. I haven't got the equipment to manufacture or work with aluminum or stainless steel. So mild steel is the only option for me. I can get the tank, custom tank, built by someone else. Cost a lot of money. I don't think I'd want to spend that kind of money, not on this build. So I'm going to build it out of mild steel. And if that concerns you, like it did concern me, let's go and look at the fuel tank I built for the Rogue Rat Rod. I used mild steel. I built it about 2 years ago. So I made this fuel tank from mild steel plate, 1mm thick, 19 gauge. It's a little dusty, but it's not rusty, at least on the outside. So I've unscrewed the inspection cover here. It also contains the fuel pickup. So I want to see now what it looks like inside. I'm very interested to know. So I've got my LED headlamp precariously balanced here, shining into the hole. I'm going to try and get closer so that we can have a look. There's the fuel level, and I tell you, I don't see any rust. That steel is as good as it was the day I built the tank, and it's about 2 years old now, and this tank has mostly not been full. I'm pretty satisfied with what's going on here. So yes, for me, that's good enough. If I can have my tank looking like that inside after 2 years, I'm gonna build that other fuel tank out of mild steel as well. One final shot before I close up this cover again. Looking good, man. So here's the plan, Stan. I'm gonna build myself a fuel tank that sits in here between the frame rails. Not very deep. So the maximum distance this away is 850 millimeters. Maximum distance this way is 650 millimeters. And my depth is gonna actually be determined by the aftermarket fuel gauge sender unit that I've got. Let's go check that out. Okay, so this sender unit is actually going to determine the minimum depth of my tank. It's about 240 mils, a little bit less. So if I make my tank 250 millimeters deep, I'll be safe. So here's my box as I've currently measured it. I've written my dimensions in meters because I want to calculate the volume. I'm going to show you now what I'm going to do. So my width between frame rails, 850 millimeters, is the same as 0.85 meters. My 4.5 dimension, 650 or 0.65, and my depth, 250 millimeters or 0.25 meters. If I multiply those three figures with each other, that is 0.138 cubic meters, which is the same as 138 liters. So that would be the volume of my tank with those dimensions. I think it's a little bit big. I think I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. 0.45. 0.09, say 6, which is 96 liters. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use those dimensions, and then I will get a tank with a volume of 96 liters. To do this in gallons, I have no idea what the formula is, but I'm sure Mr. Google will be able to help you. I've got this piece of plate here, 1 millimeter thick, cold rolled steel, that I'm going to make the tank from. I guess 1.6 millimeters would have been better, easier to weld, but this is what I've got. So I now need to fold it along these two lines here. It's a 90-degree bend, but I haven't got anything that I can bend this plate with, a bending brake of the required length. So that would mean I have to cart it off to town, 30 kilometers away, go find an engineering shop with a bending brake, probably have to wait a few days for them to do it, and then hope that they do it on my lines. Ish. You know what? This bus is stopping right here. It is time! Ta-da! Through the magical powers of YouTube, this wonderful blue machine magically appears. So yeah, there's been so many videos made on building bending brakes, so I decided I'm not going to make a video about building this thing. So I spent quite a bit of time fabricating this machine. I've been threatening to do it for years. I've actually been collecting the bits and pieces for it over a long time. Found most of this in scrap yards. It's been lying around here forever. So I finally built it. I haven't even tried it yet, not with a wide piece of plate. So let's see how it goes. Right, so I guess the first thing to do is to get my piece of plate in here. Let's see now. And then now line it up on my marks, if I can see them. There's one. Check this side as well. Right, one thing left to do. I've never done anything on this machine like this before. So I have no idea what this fold is going to turn out like. There's only one way to find out. Let's do it. That worked beautifully. So far, feels good. Let's see what it looks like. Oh man, what a pleasure. Love it. Might as well do the other side too. What a pleasure, I love it. Awesome. Still learning the machine, but there we have it. I have a question to self. Why didn't you build this machine 20 years ago? What a pleasure. I love it. Okay, I've cut the piece for the top of my tank. And I'm just going to bend a 15 millimeter lip on this. That's a little bit more than half an inch. What a pleasure, man. Gosh, looks pretty clear. Here we go. Okay, this top piece is going to go in like this. Something to that effect. So here on my weld seam I will have double material. I think that's just going to make it a little bit easier than trying to weld edge to edge. Here you can see what I mean. Double material, so if I weld there, it's going to be much easier. But before I weld this box together, I'm first going to make my baffle plates. That needs to go in here. Sometimes I just find it easier and more accurate to cut this thin stuff with a cutting disc. You can cut very accurately, there's no slag like you get with a plasma cutter. There's no wastage of material if you were to use a shear. So yeah, sometimes I just prefer to use this. So I reckon 2 baffle plates will be adequate. I'm just going to cut the corners off at 45. And I think I'll cut 2 holes in here as well. If you haven't got a hole saw of the right size, here's a neat little trick. This is just a slice of pipe, thin slice of pipe. I've welded on this piece of flat bar. So I'm going to clamp this on here now. And then I can use this as a guide for the plasma cutter. So yeah, you can make them in any size you want. Just got to find the right size pipe. Here you go. Works quite well. Probably not a bad idea to just do a trial run with this folded section that's going to be the tank. So I'm just seeing how it's going to sit. And looking from here, I think it sticks out a little bit too much. Yeah. So I think I'm going to actually taper the bottom end of the tank. I'm going to cut this off about 2 inches, 50 mil or so. And then I can just slant the back, or the bottom of the tank rather, to sit at about the same angle as the bodywork here. So I've cut this piece off the bottom to taper the bottom. Same here with my end piece. So removing this, I lose about 8 liters of capacity, which is a little bit more than 2 gallons in the US. I know that because of mathematics. I calculated it. But I still have enough volume left, so I'm not too worried about it. So because of this taper that I've put in, this side is now obviously shorter. So my piece here is a little too long, but I'm just going to make a mark there and then cut it off accordingly, so that my top piece can fit as it should. Let's try one of the baffle plates. How does it go? Looks like it can work. Yes. So I'm just going to measure along here and mark equi-spaced distances for putting in my 2 baffle plates. I got my first baffle plate in place, being held there by my helping hands, this pipe clamp here and another one down there. So it all looks good. I think I'm going to give it a little tack here. Hold it there for now, maybe another one here. Another one here. Okay, lekker. So I've got my 2 baffles in place. So far so good. I'm sure you know this, but why do we need the baffles? Well, it's 2 reasons as far as I know. One is to prevent the liquid from sloshing around too much, so it sort of breaks that movement. And the other one, of course, is to stiffen up the whole tank. So let's try the top piece and see if it fits. Just need a little persuasion. There we go. Oh, that's looking pretty good. So I'm sure I would need to fine tune my end pieces a little bit. Does look like it, yeah. Maybe take off a little bit here and around those top corners. So I think my next step's going to be to tack these end plates or end pieces in place. But I'm not going to try and line them up exactly to the edge here. You see here, I've moved this plate in 3mm, 4mm, 1/8 of an inch more or less. To try and line it up right with the edge, that's just too difficult. Done it like this way before, just makes the welding much easier. So I'm going to tack it in place all along with this sort of plate sticking out by about 1/8 of an inch. And one right in the corner there. And I think I'm good there. Okay. On the money. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, well, I'm not going to weld it on yet. Just checking. So I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side now. Both end pieces are tacked in place. Got my baffles in place. So before I fit my lid finally and weld that, there's a few things I need to consider, you know, exits, entries. So for a start I would need a filler cap. So what am I going to do there? I can go and order a fancy fandangled shiny chrome flush mounted cap. Take some time to get it, spend money. I don't think it's going to fit the character of my build here. It's not going to fit the picture. So I think what I'm going to do, I've got the old original filler pipe from the F100. And I'm going to use this. I'm just going to cut it off here. And then weld this right on here. It's good enough for me. I'm going to use this one. It doesn't look too bad. Cleaned up okay. Little dinged. It's probably got lots of stories to tell, but still fully serviceable. There you go. Lots of stories to tell, still fully serviceable. It's a little bit like me. I need a hole somewhere for the fuel sender unit. I've made up this flange which fits here. So I'm going to weld that on somewhere. I think there. And then finally I would need the point where I take the fuel out of the tank. And I would need a breather. So I think I'm going to combine that with a sort of an inspection plate. So I might cut open here somewhere. Okay, so here's my layout. That's the front of the truck. So the deepest part of the tank is there. Here's the flange for my sender unit for the fuel gauge. So I need to cut a hole there. Then I'm going to weld this on. Here's my filler cap. So I need to cut the hole here and then I can weld this in. And this little frame here, that's going to be where my inspection cover sits, and at the same time my fuel pickup line, my breather. And if you have fuel return, which I haven't got, that can also be fit in here. So let me cut some holes. So to secure down a cover plate here, I would need to drill and tap, and this material is way too thin for that. This is only 1 millimeter. So I have made this flange here from 20 by 5. So that gives me some meat in which I can drill and tap for my little bolts or screws. So I could put it on like this, but if I do that, it means I have to have good welding all the way around here that can't leak. So to avoid that extra hassle, I'm going to put it in from the inside, and then the welding doesn't actually matter. I can just tack it on in a few spots. And now I have a puke green cover for my inspection hole. Use what you have, right? I was looking for some material with a little bit more thickness. This is about 2 mil thick. It was perfect. So I'm using this. I've cut it out of that old piece there. I've drilled and tapped my holes. I've got one about every 1.5 inches. You could argue that it's too many, but one thing is for sure, it's not going to leak. I'm not going to screw it down yet, of course. I still need to make a gasket. And now my fuel takeoff line is going to get welded in here, and my breather line as well. And if you have a fuel return, that can also be fitted here. I need some of these little sockets, I think, that I'm going to stick in here. Unfortunately, I only got one here, so I need another one next time I go shopping. So I think I'm ready to weld the top on, but I have a little problem here. So don't tell anyone, but I actually stuffed up. Because if the top goes on, how am I going to weld this baffle plate onto the top? So what I should have done was fit the top first, not have this on yet, and then I could go in there to spot weld the baffle plates to the top, and then put this in afterwards. But I didn't. Oh, the only thing I can think of now is to carefully measure here and then draw maybe there and there and there a little hole, and then do a sort of a plug weld. I'm going to have to measure quite carefully, because the hole must be, in theory, exactly above this thin piece of 1 millimeter plate. Let's see how that's going to turn out. So according to my best measurements and calculations, X marks the spot. Okay, let's move it up. Hey, well done, I can see the plate. Looks like the old man can still measure. Yeah, see, some oaks don't believe me, so check it out. Look in there. Haha, can you see the plate there? Spot on, bro.
Boosted by newfound confidence, he boldly drilled 4 more holes.
Yeah, so being a tight-assed sucker for punishment, who does not want to spend money on a stainless steel or aluminum tank, I'm now coating the inside of my mild steel tank with a thin layer of grease to keep the enemy away until such time as I can fill it up. Well, at least with the money I save, I'll be able to buy quite a few tanks of gas. That's what you call it, guys call it in the States. Here we call it petrol. So petrol in South Africa, gas in the States, it's the same thing. Funny enough, here in South Africa, if we talk about gas, we are referring to LPG, liquid propane gas. Right, so the inside is just like nice and slippery. Let's get this lid on here. Just got to put it on the right way around. It's going to need to go like this, yes. One final look inside, never to be seen again. Well, excuse me for blowing my own trumpet, but I think I've got a damn good fit going on here. Everything is looking very nicely. I'm ready to give it a tack in a few spots. De Villiers, is there anything you still need to do inside this tank? Because this is your last opportunity. For better or for worse. Here we go. Okay. Okay, good old push stick required here to push down onto the baffle plate for my plug weld. Overlap here is looking absolutely awesome. Let me get a few tacks on here. This side not so much. Got to figure out a way to pull this plate up to close up that gap. Here's the plan, Stan. I've just tacked this bit of angle bar on here, and now I can just lever it up like that and give it a tack right there. Now I've got to weld up this tank fully so that it doesn't leak, and pinholes are going to be the enemy. So if I could do a run continuously from the air all the way through, that will give me the least amount of chance for pinholes, because pinholes will happen where you start. So if I do a piece there and stop there and I start there again, that's a spot for a potential pinhole. But to weld it in one continuous run, I think it's going to heat up too much, possibly cause some distortion. I'm not willing to take that chance, so I'm just going to do short pieces, and then later on we're actually going to test the tank to find those pinholes, and I promise you there will be some, if not a lot. So I don't call myself a hotshot welder by any means, but I get by. I'm pretty hot with the grinder though. But you can see here how that overlap helps, because it actually just melts into the weld. If you were to have these two plates meeting edge to edge, it's going to be a whole different story. Smoke from the grease inside the tank. And here's that top overlapping joint. Again, just easier to weld this than it would be to weld edge to edge like that. Eesh. If you smell barbecue, don't stress. It's just my fingers holding onto some super hot steel. I guess that's why real welders wear gloves, eh? Now don't get the camera too close, otherwise the whole world will see your bad welding. Cool, tank is fully welded. No, not this one. That's the dream. That's what they get. A fancy aluminum fuel cell. This is what I get. A mild steel fuel tank. What's the difference between a fuel cell and a fuel tank anyway? So I got this here rubber sheeting, which I believe is gas proof, petrol proof. It's about 1.5 millimeters thick. That would be 1/16. Yes. So I'm just going to cut myself a gasket for my inspection cover plate. I've marked my holes here with white pencil. So I'm just going to use a little hole punch to make some holes there. And I'll probably cut the inside out as well. The smallest hole punch I've got is a little bit big. So I've taken this piece of fuel line, which is a little smaller. Just grinded a bevel on the end. And this should now work. I'm just going to try that. There we go. Look at that. Good plan. It works well. So I'm just making some holes here on the corners for my inside cut out. Like so. Because that will just make it easier to cut it. Because I've got a point to work from and towards. And the last one. This corner here. Right. Now we can do this. It's not half bad. And it should now fit on here. You never have the right bolts, do you? But I'm just going to use what I have. And I'll find the right thing later. So it might be fully welded, but if there is not at least one pinhole on my weld seam, I will eat my welding helmet. So I better test this thing. Babes, are you home? Anyone here? Looks like she's not here. Hey Elsie, where's your mum? So where does she keep the stuff? I don't see anything in here. Let's have a look here. Aha! This is what I'm looking for. I'm just going to steal this. It's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission. So I've got a dishwashing liquid and water solution here. I'm going to brush that onto my weld seams. And then I'm going to pressurize the tank with some air. So this is the only hole left. I've sealed up the inspection cover plate. I've got the fuel filler cap in place. So I'm just going to try and see if I just kind of seal this up with a rag, if that will work well enough. Got the air going, and look right there. Bubble, pinhole. What I tell you. Thank God, at least I don't have to eat my welding helmet. So there's at least two here. So pinhole right there by that mark. So I'm just going to grind that out and re-weld it. Okay, one down. I don't know, there's another one here. And then I don't know from that point on. So I'm going to just work my way through all the weld seams. Find those pinholes, re-weld them, test it again. And then I'll let you know how many pinholes I had. How's that? So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pinholes on this side. I had one here and a very bad one there. So that's another 2. And not a single pinhole on these weld seams. So them YouTube welding inspectors can slay me all they want. But my tank is now leak proof. Even with 6 bars of pressure, it's good. I'm quite impressed with myself, even if the welding is a bit untidy. Right, so let's see if this thing's gonna fit in the hole here. So I've got the jack down there. We'll hopefully hold it in place. And let's see. Yeah, how about that? It actually goes in. I've now got to figure a way to actually hold it in place here. I think I'm going to start by just welding on some tabs here, and then we'll see what we do in the bottom. So I got tabs welded on, and now at least the tank can hang by itself. So I now need to look underneath what I'm going to do to strap it from below. Right, that's the angle, and this distance needs to be 24.
That's not inches, that's centimeters.
The straps needed to hold the tank look something like this. But yeah, to bend this piece up out of one piece of steel, it's going to be quite tricky. So I've decided to just make loose pieces. So I'll go and bolt these pieces onto the truck each side of the tank. Then I can just measure this piece here, fine tune it all a little bit, tack it together, and then take it off and weld it up fully. I think this way it's just going to be easier. I had to put the truck on some stands so I could get in here. So here you can see what's going on at the moment. There's my one flat bar piece bolted to the frame. Same that side. Also got the front ones in place if you look very carefully. So now I'm just going to cut pieces of flat bar that fits in here. That one is already in place. Not welded yet, it's just a good fit. It's just kind of hanging there by a thread. So I'm going to get the welder now so I can tack weld them in, and then I can take the straps out, weld them fully, and then I can be done with this bloody strap business. But I think I'm just going to lie here for a while and rest my weary bones. Just look at this place. It's freaking amazing what a mess I can make in such a short period of time. So in between these straps in the bottom and the tabs that I welded to the top, my tank's not going to go anywhere. I think I'll just line this with some rubber once I've got it painted. I went to town to pick up some supplies, my least favorite activity in the world, and I got some of these, or two of these standard 3/8 galvanized sockets that I've now welded in here. One is for my fuel takeoff, one is for my breather. So now we get into some serious forest engineering stuff. This contraption is going to be the pickup tube. It screws in there. If you've never seen such a thing in your life, don't stress, neither have I. So what I basically got at the end of this piece of pipe, I welded on this bigger piece of pipe, capped the ends, and drilled some 1mm holes in there. So I'm kind of regarding this as my pre-filter. When this tank starts rusting one day, if it does, at least it will stop the rust, the big rust flakes from being sucked into the fuel line. Let's see how that's going to work. So that's going to go in like that now. Up here I've got a standard 3/8 male-female elbow. That's going to screw in there. And the reason I want to turn so tight is because I don't have a lot of space here, because the bottom of the load bed is going to be only about 2 inches above the tank. Then I took a standard 3/8 nipple, cut it in half, and then drilled it out to fit this nice piece of pipe that I cut off of the end of the original fuel line from the truck. I silver soldered it in there. So now this can screw in here. And now my standard 3/8 fuel hose can go over like that. Clamp. Job done. Here for the breather I'm going to do the same thing. I've also got an M&F elbow 3/8. That goes in there. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the FE-LP-B Mark 1. That stands for Forest Engineering Low Profile Breather Tube. Again, I've welded on a piece of that nipple. This side is capped. Just got a tube open on this side. I stuffed it with a bunch of this foam. This is going to screw in here, like yay. I've even got a split pin that goes through these holes at the end to prevent the foam from popping out. I mean, we think of everything. So yeah, I've never seen such a contraption in my life, and I'm sure neither have you. I'm not sure if it's going to work. It will definitely allow the tank to breathe. If it does make a mess and it leaks too much or something, I can always take it off and try something else. I think my biggest challenge is that I can put in a piece of pipe like I did here, but I don't really know where to take the pipe to because of the way I built that load bin. So we'll see. If nothing else, it does look quite interesting, complex, involved, stupid. Pick one. I think this tank is done now. I still have to paint it. New scoreboard, stainless steel 1, mild steel 0. And everything is finally in place. Fuel tank is bolted down. I've got my fuel line hooked up. I've got the sender unit over there. That's all wired up. Filler cap right here. There you go. When I put the bed cover on, I will just cut a nice hole in this plus spot here, maybe give it a nice lining of something. Camera has also been positioned very carefully so that you don't see the warps in the tank. That's what I mean, this black paint is now very nicely showing the distortion in the tank. Hey, but who cares, it's just a rat rod and it's going to get covered up anyway. There's only one problem that remains now. Fuel prices in South Africa just went up again, and we are now paying $1.41 for a liter of gas, petrol, fuel, call it what you like. That's US dollars, eh? So if you want to know the price of a US gallon, we are looking at $5.35 for a US gallon of gas. I need to fill it up. And enjoy the shine while you can. It's going to get covered up in dust soon. Out here in the forest, dust is my friend. I've got no choice. Rust and dust. I think this is probably the longest video I've ever made. So if you're still here, you're hardcore, man. Thanks for staying with me. Really appreciate it. So yes, until next time, don't let the dust and the rust stress you. Have a good one.